Hopefully everybody can see the slides fine. I'm going to talk a bit about a new term that's kind of coming out, evolving lately out of the whole AI situation that's going on in engineering, and that's the AI assisted SDLC. I think everybody has probably heard all about the vibe coding because that's been kind of a hot term for the past 6 months or so. Lots of tools out there that help us just kind of code by the seat of our pants, but we're going to talk about reining that in a little bit. First off, who am I? Like I already said, I'm Sean Mann. I'm a security engineer at Synthesia. Synthesia is an AI video generation company. We focus mainly on training videos, corporate training type stuff. That's our big field, and support the tools around that. We've got a lot of huge clients, and man, it's amazing to see how fast this company works. I've never been involved with a startup of this size or a startup of this velocity, and it's just incredible. They not only are putting out new features, they're constantly fixing bugs. Also, it's keeping speed with the change of the industry, which is breakneck speed pretty much at this point. Anyway, more of who I am. In the past, for about the past 15 years, been an engineering manager of some sorts. A bit of a CTO role, bit of staff engineer, engineer manager, all sorts of stuff at a bunch of different companies. Now I've gone back into the individual contributor role, and I am more of a robot wrangler, as I coined earlier this month when I decided to make this presentation. I think it's a funny term because that is what I'm doing. It's almost like managing a junior engineer or a whole bunch of junior engineers that give me random different outputs all the time, and I don't have to double check their work, but that's not what I do. And hopefully in the future, when I retire from all this, I can just be a cat wrangler. I think I'm pretty well experienced at wrangling things now, and I heard cats are difficult, so I'm going to try that next.
Cloud Leadership Circle is brought to you by Dunyasi Ventures, a leading provider of expert recruitment services. Whether you are starting out or scaling up, Dunyasi Ventures recruitment solutions will give you access to expert recruiters who will find the right fit every time. Contact Dunyasi Ventures today for a free consultation to build your dream team.
So first off, let's talk about vibe coding. This is obviously a big term that's been coming out right lately. It's, building software by intuition, by kind of the seat of your pants. You say, I have an idea. I want this sort of app. This kind of lack structure often. You're coming in with an idea, a fairly nebulous idea. Sometimes maybe it's a little bit more concrete, but if you've ever been involved with software development, there's multiple layers of concreteness that have to happen to make something a reality. Vibe coding often has no clear specs or really traceable logic. You're kind of logicking things out with your AI assistant as you go, which ends up making it being pretty fragile in the end, a bit risky, fast, but not really great. That reminds me of the trifecta here of the good, fast, or cheap. Can't have all three. I think we're trying to, though. And I think we're approaching on optimizing this even further. But right now, if you're doing vibe coding, you're probably getting fast. You're probably getting kind of cheap, but it's hardly good. It's a big temptation to use this because these tools are designed so that they draw you in, right? They're easy to use. They're fun to use, and often end up thinking about things after the fact, thinking about things like security, maintainability, and scalability after the fact. So needs to be integrated typically into the whole idea so that things are kept on the rails a little bit better. So it's a problem because you end up with hidden vulnerabilities that can be in code, that can be in packages that you've used or the LLM has used. The LLMs are often trained on past data, so they don't always have the most up-to-date information. There could have been a security vulnerability in a package that it suggests you use, and all of a sudden it can have that in there, and you didn't notice, you didn't realize, especially if you're not that experienced and you're just kind of trying to vibe coding out. A lot of these tools are enabling people who don't really have a lot of experience with software development to make stuff, which is really awesome, but we need to also make sure that they're helped in a more holistic way, that they can make software that's not dangerous, basically. So also vibe coding, like I've kind of been mentioning here, at least to some inconsistent logic. You start off with feature A. You say, maybe I want a light box around all of the products on my web page, and then you come to a point where the product doesn't have images that you would put in a light box, and it doesn't know how to deal with that. So you end up with like maybe an empty light box or something, and then you tell it how you do want to deal with that, and then the program ends up with some sort of conflicting logic in there. Happens pretty frequently with these AI tools making code. And then the systems are hard to automate product, we don't know what decisions were made. We don't know why. And that can lead to, if you actually want to take this product to market or something, there's potential regulatory and security risks in there, like I mentioned, with using old packages or something like that. But also, maybe you're using it to set up some cloud infrastructure, and well, it's set up some cloud infrastructure in the US and in the EU, and maybe somewhere in a zone that's in a country that many of your clients, many of your customers might think is a risk. So you have to watch out for these things that you wouldn't necessarily consider off the top of your head. Root cause of all this is, well, as most people do, we all like shiny new things. Developers and AI tools are moving really, really fast. There's stuff that's coming out daily, new tools that claim to make things better, and they sometimes, most oftentimes even do, but we don't have a lot of time to spend in that specific tool to understand its nuances and get used to it before the next tool comes on, and then we start having to experience that once again. So we're always seeing, and I don't know how many of you have been involved in software development here, but oftentimes engineers are very attracted to shiny new things, shiny new tools. Not everybody, but quite often. They want to try these things out. I don't blame them. They look cool. Having an AI program do the heavy lifting of your work for you, it sounds great. It's not quite that reality, but it sounds great. So you start off with this like really good energy. You're excited to use the tool, but there's no like design or validation built into a lot of these code generation tools. And from a cybersecurity perspective, we find this really dangerous. You're relinquishing the control of the design of your app and the implementation of all of your code to a third party, and a third party that's doing it in a black box where you don't really see what's going on. So there's tools out there like Base 44 and Replit and Lovable that are really neat at building things, but you don't really see what's going on back in the code base so much. A couple of them do expose that, but not as fully as they probably should. So things to be cautious of. Coming this new philosophy, this new principle, new term called the AI assisted SDLC. So I've only started seeing it pop up in the past 6 months or so. It's not a term I made, but it's a term I will definitely adopt. We're starting to treat our AI agents that write our code for us as junior engineers. They are very capable at this point, but they lack that nuance that a senior engineer or a lead tech lead might bring into the fold. The engineers that exist now are becoming more of a hybrid of like a project manager, director, and an engineer altogether. So they have to understand a very wide field of knowledge and a wide field of skills so that they can not only review the code, they can understand how to help design it, why features matter, all that sort of good stuff. The AI-assisted SDLC also brings in a bit more structure around that vibe coding. So instead of just saying, hey, I want this feature, it's going to say, hey, let's design out this feature. And it helps to put in gates so that you can have points where the LLM is going to share that feature, share a demonstration of that feature with you, share output of that feature, share output of its plans, etc., so that you as a human can review it and you have time to adjust to it. You can have time to say, no, this is not really what I wanted. You're misunderstanding. Let's make these changes to the plan. Let's make these changes to the implementation. Your output is not what I wanted. And I mean, this happens even with junior engineers. So it's not really something that's new. We're not unfamiliar with this at all, because communication is really difficult. We've got project managers that give us very good specs and details. And even them, we follow those specs maybe to a T. By the time we get done with it, that's not exactly what we meant. So we have to adjust. And this is, sort of how the whole agile software development process came about in the first place, right? Is nobody's perfect. We have to adjust. Customers often want things that we didn't think about, so we have to kind of continually adjust. And bringing the AI tools into this fold can help us iterate on that immensely fast. So what's next here? What are the solutions to this? A lot of companies are already adopting AI tools. If they're not, they're probably getting behind at this point. We're pretty full on with AI tool adoption. And so we've got plan mode that's coming out. That's a newer feature that's coming out in Cursor as well as Claude. Those are both coding assistant tech tools. And then there's GitHub Spec Kit, which takes it an extra level, and it goes into break it down a little bit further than just these plan modes do. Plan modes are really great for single feature work. So, you want an extra button that does X, Y, or Z. It'll help you plan out an entire feature pretty well. Short set of tasks, maybe something 5 to 10 steps, but it definitely gets you there. It's great. Gives you some transparency because you can actually see a plan document. You can review it, you can write it, edit it, and say, no, this is not exactly what I wanted. But it doesn't quite take you as far as the whole holistic application view, just really kind of that feature view. And that's where like a tool like GitHub Spec Kit comes into place. It takes your ideas and it converts them into structured specs. It spits out a bunch of user stories with acceptance criteria and gives you, fine points where so that you can trace which feature has actually been done. So, features are numbered or add identifiers to them. So this whole process sort of bridges the work that a PM does along with the work that developers do, and also gives room for auditors in there because we, as auditors, can now see a trace of that decision making in these plans, how things work, and why those decisions were made often get captured now. And this creates a whole documentation before code sort of work, which is how a lot of us work. Not everybody, but this is typically the more industry standard is documentation before code to a degree. Spec Kit's pretty cool. It's fairly new. It's got 45,000 stars on GitHub, 3,900 forks, and again, it takes that plan mode to the next level. It gives you a standardized set of rules that you can flesh out for the project. It then can go into specifying what the project needs are, and then it'll go through a round of an implementation documentation, and then finally tasks, and then you fire it off to do its work. So you end up with maybe a little bit too much documentation, and that's a bit of what my current work is focused on, is getting that down to like the bare bones of what we're going to need for some of the projects that my team works on. Why does this all matter? So the AI assisted SDLC is helping to control the creativity, helping to control the vibe a little bit. You hopefully still have plenty of room for being creative, but in a different way. It's controlling the LLM in the AI agent that actually generates the vast majority of the content. Helps to build trust and accountability because there's visibility into how the decisions are made. There's documentation around why these features matter, user stories, etc. There's still human in the loop oversight, HITL, which is super important and is going to be more and more important in the future, that these AI tools can immediately demonstrate something to us as their output. And this still sort of keeps the vibe. You're still able to kind of chat back and forth with an AI agent and work in that more freely creative way, but it's adding a lot of structure to it that helps the AI agent actually work efficiently and do what we're asking it to do instead of go off the rails a bit. Vibe coding happens when enthusiasm outruns discipline. Shiny new tools attract us to do something that's fun. The AI can amplify chaos by making some really crappy code if it's not given enough rails and enough view to understand what to do. So try to control the vibe and don't let it control you. With that, yeah. Anybody have questions?